Blessings, everyone. This is Reverend Aphren with the Four Pillars Temple. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to our Yule broadcast. I wanted to talk briefly about Yule and do a little bit of an activity with this video. So, as Wiccans, Yule is the holiday which honors the rebirth of the sun. S-U-N, not S-O-N, whereas some of us may be familiar with that idea from Christianity. And so some of you may hear this story about Yule and see some parallels between Christianity and Wicca. And part of the reason why is because at Yule, we honor sort of a traditional motif within what I like to call the mythic cycle, which is our wheel of the year or our liturgical calendar in Wicca. And so we honor the mythic cycle, and the story of Yule and in the practice and worship of Yule is very old. There are many faiths around the world and many early cultures who observed a winter solstice celebration because they at that time identified that the sun in a cosmological sense was at its lowest point. And so from this point on in the calendar year, the sun will begin to grow, the days will grow longer, and the sun will get warmer. And so the sun is continuing to grow and to become stronger. And as the sun begins to grow and become stronger, it will actually continue to grow and bring warmth to our earth. And by bringing warmth to our earth, it is actually encouraging growth, not just with plants, but also with animals. And so in the mythic cycle, in the Wiccan liturgical year, the wheel of the year, we're coming from Samhain and we're moving into Yule. And on Samhain, it is believed that our God dies. And what we mean by that is the God itself, he does not die. But what happens is he a part of the sort of the mythic cycle dies, where the god gives up his life so that other beings may live. And through the harvest and the reaping of the harvest, the god sacrifices his life and eventually dies. And the god is reborn at Yule. The god that is reborn at Yule is the god that was impregnated inside of the goddess at Beltane, which happened in May. So the goddess became impregnated at May. She moves through the year and gives birth at Yule to the god. And so this is the time of the year when we honor the shortest day, moving into a period where the sun is going to be able to grow and the days will grow longer. And as the days grow longer, again, we receive those blessings and we receive the warmth of the sun and the light of the sun and the promise of continued growth and hope. So at this time of Yule, we honor the sun in his role as sort of the young Lord, the reborn sun that comes to warm the earth. And as the sun grows in strength, so too does the goddess. The mythic cycle tells us that at Samhain, the goddess begins to slumber through the winter. And because the goddess, of course, being Mother Earth, in the northern hemisphere, we know that it snows here, and so the goddess is in slumber, and so she's sleeping under the blanket of snow, and from this moment on will also begin to grow in strength until we move into Imbolc in February. So this is sort of the mythic idea that we are surrounded with at this time of year. And so we're reminded of the rebirth of the sun in the flame and in the fire and in the warmth that comes from the sun. And we use the evergreens to represent the eternal life of the sun and the eternal life of the god and goddess and the eternal life of our own nature, because we are maybe within this body of flesh, but our spirit is eternal and we will go on to reincarnate. And so these symbols are the symbols of our faith and the symbols of this holiday. So I wanted to just briefly touch upon that at this time and the importance of the Yule season. And so here at Four Pillars, we normally start our Yule celebration off by making wassail, which is a spiced cider. Apple cider is generally how we make it. And so from there, we normally celebrate Yule by lighting a Yule log and having a ritual around our altar where we give thanks to the god for the gifts that we have been given. We give thanks to the goddess for our life. We give thanks for the continued protection through the remainder of winter. And we move on in being able to have strength and protection in the coming year from famine and disease and illness, and being able to make it through the remainder of winter safely. So those are the things that we do here at Four Pillars. Sometimes, several years ago, we made solar oil, which was blessed by the sun, and the oil itself would bring the individual who uses it blessings of the sun, of prosperity and strength, and of course that creative fire and that creative spark that is the Yule time. For some faiths, Yule is a time when they actually have their new year. So for most Wiccans, our new year is on Samhain. But for other pagan faiths, the new year begins on Yule with the rebirth of the sun. And so today what I'd like to do is, now that we've talked a little bit about Yule, I want to talk a little bit about something a little more joyous. Not that Yule isn't joyous, but it gives us the opportunity to talk a little bit about something that we often see in pop culture. So I'm sure many of us have seen at the stores or in movies those little gnomes, those little Christmas gnomes that people call Christmas gnomes. Some people might not identify that they're actually gnomes, and they would just see them as, oh, cute little Santas or something, and didn't identify exactly what they were. But actually, those Christmas gnomes have a name. And so what I'd like to do, and for those that have children in the audience, you're welcome to bring the kids in and sit with me by the fire while I read you a story. All right, so I'd like to read to everyone here a story. And this story is called The Tomten. And it's by Astrid Lindgren. And so we'll read the Tomten together, and then we'll go from there, and I'll tell you a little bit about the story, and I'm sure you can identify maybe some of the information that we're about to read. So let's go ahead and read The Tomten by Astrid Lindgren. This was adapted by Astrid Lindgren from a poem by Victor Rydberg. It was the dead of night. The old farm lies fast asleep, and everyone inside the house is sleeping too. The farm is deep in the middle of the forest. Once upon a time, someone came here, cut down trees, built a homestead, and farmed the land. No one knows who. The stars are shining in the night sky. The snow lies white all around. The frost is cruel. On such a night, people creep into their small houses, wrap themselves up, and bank the fire on the hearth. Here is a lonely old farm where everyone is sleeping, but not all. There's the farm. The Tomten is awake. He lives in the corner of the hayloft and comes out at night when human beings are asleep. He is an old Tomten who has seen the snow of many hundreds of winters. No one knows when he came to the farm. No one has ever seen him, but they know he is there. Sometimes, when they wake up, they see the prints of his feet in the snow. No one has seen the Tomten. And there he is. You can see him, and there's his little footprints there. On small, silent feet, the Tomten moves about in the moonlight. He peeks into cowshed and stable, storehouse and tool shed. He goes between the buildings, making tracks in the snow. The Tomten goes first to the cowshed. The cows are dreaming that summer is here, and they are grazing in the fields. The Tomten talks to them in Tomten language, a silent little language the cows can understand. Winters come and winters go, summers come and summers go. Soon you can graze in the fields. And there he is visiting them in the cow shed. The moon is shining into the stable. There are Dobbins thinking. Perhaps he remembers a clover field where he trotted down last summer. The Tomten talks to him in Tomten language, a silent little language a horse can understand. Winters come and winters go, summers come and summers go. Soon you will be in your clover field. And you see there's the horse. Now all the sheep and lambs are sleeping soundly, but they bleat softly when the Tomten peeps in at the door. He talks to them in a Tomten language, a little language the sheep can understand. All my sheep, all my lambs, the night is cold, but your wool is warm, and you have aspen leaves to eat. Then, on small silent feet, the Tomten goes to the chicken house, and the chickens cluck contentedly when he comes. He talks to them in Tomten language, a silent little language the chickens can understand. Lay me an egg, my jolly chickens, and I will give you corn to eat. And there he is in the coop. The dog kennel roof is white with snow, and inside is Caro. Every night he waits for the moment when the Tomten will come. The Tomten is his friend. And he talks to Caro in Tomten language, a silent little language a dog can understand. Caro, my friend, is it cold tonight? Are you cold in your kennel? I'll fetch some straw, and then you can sleep. The house where the people live is silent. They are sleeping through the winter night without knowing that the Tomten is there. Winters come and winters go. I have seen people large and small, but never have they seen me, thinks the Tomten. And you can see the family in there sleeping. He tiptoes across to the children's cot and stands looking for a long time. If they would only wake up, then I could talk to them in Tomten language, a silent little language children can understand. But children sleep at night. And away goes the Tomten on his little feet. In the morning, the children see his tracks, a line of tiny footprints in the snow. And there they are sleeping. Then the Tomten goes back to his cozy little corner in the hayloft. There, in the hay, the cat is waiting for him, for she wants milk. The Tomten talks to the cat in Tomten language, a silent little language a cat can understand. Of course you may come and stay with me, and of course I will give you milk, says the Tomten. And there's the cat, laying on the hay there. Winter is long and dark and cold, and sometimes the Tomten dreams of summer. Winters come and winters go, summers come and summers go. Soon the swallows will be here, thinks the Tomten. And there he is, having thoughts of the swallows. But the snow still lies in deep drifts around the old farm in the forest. The stars shine in the sky. It is biting cold. On such a night, people creep into their small houses and bank the fire on the hearth. Here in the lonely old farm, where everyone is fast asleep, all but one. And there's the little village. Winters come and winters and summers go. Year follows year. But as long as people live at the old farm in the forest, every night the Tomten will trip around between the houses on his small, silent feet. And there's the Tomten walking around and surveying his little area. And that, my friends, is the end of the story of the Tomten. Now, it doesn't seem like much is really going on in this story, but what we do know is that Tomten are small little gnomes, Christmas gnomes, that live in the houses. And what we learned from this story is actually congruent with folklore, which says that the Tomten are generally the first human inhabitants of a land. And so individuals that would come into the area and they would strip the trees and they would cultivate the land for farming, they generally are believed in some cultures to kind of hang out and remain in that area. And so they become sort of like house spirits, house wights, if you will. In the Germanic tradition, they call them house wights. And so Tomten is one name for them. Another name might be Nissa. If anyone is familiar with the term Nissa. Another term would be what most people are probably familiar with, coming from an Anglo-Saxon background, brownies. And so brownies, or the German kobold, are actually house spirits that generally are beneficial. And so their job within the home is to keep things running, and maybe they help with little chores here and there, and they scurry around the house, and they bring goodwill and blessings. And so when people see Tomten, or Christmas gnomes, remember the story of the Tomten and of the house wight that lives in your home, in your space, that was the first owner of the property and the first owner of the home, maybe, who brings their continued blessings and stays around the house. So I hope that you find some cheer and some warmth on this Yuletide and on this Yule holiday. And I hope that you will have health and prosperity in the coming year. And I hope that you enjoyed this brief story by Astrid about the Tomten. And if you liked the story, there are other stories about the Tomten. This particular Tomten in Astrid writing as well. Many other books are written by her, which feature the Tomten. So I thank you for coming and watching this brief video on this Yuletide. May you be blessed now and in all things. And until next time, signing off for now.